What's up, guys? RK here. I just wanted to talk to you real quick about the Great Commission out of Matthew. And it says, "All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations." And I wanted to focus on that all nations part because for thousands of years we've been content to make disciples in nations when Jesus said to make disciples of nations. And there's a big difference. And so when I saw that, I began to ask the question, God, is it possible to actually disciple a nation? Is it possible for a follower of Jesus to actually impact and transform an entire nation? And I read the end of the book in Revelation 21, and in Revelation 21:6 it says, "The glory and honor of the nations will be brought into it." So somewhere between Matthew 28 and Revelation 21, it happens where followers of Jesus are beginning to actually impact and transform nations. So I begin to ask God, how can I play a part in your plan to disciple all the nations? And I heard a story. I've been in YWAM for a number of years, and I heard a story of Loren Cunningham and Bill Bright. They both happened to be in Colorado at the same time. So Bill Bright actually called the ranger station by the cabin where Loren was staying, and Loren went and got on the phone. He said, "Hey, Bill said, hey, Loren, let's have lunch tomorrow." So that night, Loren Cunningham was sitting there praying, and God began to speak to him and said, "Hey, I want you to share this with your brother tomorrow," right? So he wrote it down on a paper or a napkin or whatever he had, and the next day when they went to have lunch, Loren says, "Hey, Bill, God shared something to me for you." And Bill said, "Oh, God gave something to me for you." And so they pulled out their papers, and line by line, they had the same exact things written down on the paper. Um, Bill Bright called them spheres of influence. Loren Cunningham called them mind molders. And basically, what they had written down was these 7 areas of influence are the 7 areas that are controlling the mass mind of the culture. Now, if you want to disciple a person, you got to change the way they think. If you want to disciple a nation, you got to change the way that nation thinks. And there's 7 specific areas that are controlling the mass mind of your culture, right? So I call these the 7 areas of cultural influence. Now, the first one is religion. Second one is government. Third one is arts and entertainment. Fourth one, education. Fifth one is business. Sixth one is media. And last is family. So these 7 areas are the 7 areas that are controlling the mass mind of the culture that you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a tribe in Africa or if you're in a giant nation that has billions of people. These 7 areas of influence, if we want to disciple nations, we got to begin influence and transforming these 7 areas. Now, what I have here is it's called the population explosion. When Jesus was on the planet, there was about 250 million people on the planet, to where nowadays there's upwards of 7 billion, right? And so it doesn't follow like just a simple growth trajectory. All of a sudden, boom, there's an explosion of billions of people on the planet. And what I began to think was, the devil is not a creator. He doesn't have a demon factory where he can create new demons. Basically, he had to figure out how to influence billions rather than millions. And what I believe he did is he began to focus his influence and his strategies to go after the tops, or whoever's in control of these mind molders, these spheres of influence, or what Lance Walnut calls these mountains, right? And what he does is if he can get whoever's the leader on the top of that mind molder, that sphere of influence, to believe him and come in agreement with his lies, he can release his influence to that entire area of influence. So, for example, the president, the prime minister, the king, and at the top of the government mountain has way more influence than, say, your local grumpy person at the motor vehicle division. And so, if he can focus on the tops of the mountains, then he can release his influence to the entire mountain and leverage his control over the nations. But here's the thing. For years and years, followers of Jesus said if we just build better churches, if we get revival in our church, then everyone will come into the church and we'll finish the Great Commission and Jesus will come back. But the problem is we focused on one area of influence and we left the other 6 to the devil. So if we can begin to focus our influence or focus our evangelism efforts into the other 6 mountains, we can begin to see the kingdom of God come in like yeast or like that small seed and begin to grow in these areas of influences, and we can transform and disciple the nations, and we can finish the Great Commission. Now, This is just a small excerpt of my book. It's called Kingdom 24902. I go into a simple strategy, especially in the fourth chapter. It's a compilation of just four teachings, and the fourth chapter talks about a simple way that a follower of Jesus in his everyday life can begin to release the kingdom of God, and that results in disciple nations. So go check that out. It's over at Amazon, Kingdom 24902. The circumference of the earth is 24,902 miles. So it's just a simple way to take the kingdom of God to the entire earth. All right, guys, go grab that book. It'll help you out. You got any questions, leave them in the comments down below.